Welcome back to the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. If you came here looking for how to make ooey gooey smoked onions basted with a beefy au jus, then you've come to the right place. Stick around to the end for a nice bonus recipe. Let's get started on the au jus. We are starting with 3 marrow bones. Our toaster oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and we'll pop the bones in there and roast them for about 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, I've let them cool on the tray, and we're going to drop them into a medium saucepan. Be sure to drain all the fat in there as well. Onions don't contain fat, so we're going to need every last bit we can get. Add a whole container of beef stock, then 1 tablespoon of Montreal seasoning, 2 tablespoons of sherry vinegar, and we're going to add 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire. ½ teaspoon of kosher salt, and finally 1 bunch of thyme. Simmer that on medium-low. We are starting with 5 Vidalia onions. First off, we're going to cut the tops off of all of the onions. Then carefully carve the bottom roots off of each onion. I'm going to score the outside and peel the outer layer off. Then choose the ugliest one and cut it into quarters. Next step, using your paring knife, just carve a cone-shaped well in the top of each onion, being careful not to pierce through the outside of the onion or your hand. Once you have the wells carved into the onions, we're going to score the insides by making several cuts across the layers. This is so the au jus can soak down into the onions. Careful not to cut through and poke a hole in the bottom, as the onions will act as little bowls for the au jus as they cook. Next, we are seasoning the tops with some Montreal seasoning. Just a little sprinkle will do. Now we're headed to the smoker. Alright, today instead of using wood, we are using onion chunks for our smoke. Drop those in and set your onions on your grate. I am also cooking a little dinner for myself while the smoker is going. After our au jus has reduced by half, strain it into an oven-safe container. If you notice, there are little bits of bone marrow floating in the au jus. This will make a much welcome component to our onions. Head back out to the smoker and we're going to baste each onion with a few tablespoons of the au jus. Then we are going to let that go and repeat this process every 20 minutes until we have cooked the onions for a total of 2 hours. I forgot to mention before that if you don't want to go through the trouble of making the au jus, you could use straight beef stock. Now I'm going to take a handful of shredded Gruyere cheese and place on top of the onions. Then replace the lid until the cheese melts. And here is our finished product. The onions are ooey, gooey, soft and melty. You can eat them straight as a side, or you could place them on a bun and eat them as a burger replacement. And if you had used vegetable stock instead of beef, you could easily make this a vegetarian dish. The onions are smoky, sweet, and delicious. Now, Here is what I like to do with the leftovers. I have one onion that I did not cover with cheese, but you could easily pick off the cheese if you had placed it on your onions. Place the whole onion in the food processor and pulse it until it becomes a fine paste. We're going to take a mixing bowl and add 1 cup of sour cream to the bowl. Then we are going to add 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. If you're not a fan, you could easily reduce that to a 1/4 cup, but I think 1/2 cup works well in this recipe. Next, I'm adding 1/2 cup of onion puree, and finally, 1/4 teaspoon of ground white pepper. Give it a little whiskey to combine. And finally, you are going to chop some scallions just for garnish. Place some right on top, grab your favorite bag of chips, and go to town. I'd like to mention that this dip becomes far superior the following day. Overnight, there is time for the flavors to meld and develop, but you certainly don't have to wait to eat.
Come on back and let's get funky with it. Let's do some crazy stuff. I've got stuff in the hopper that will blow your mind. We are going to explore the limits. I mean, the outer limits of barbecue. Thank you for joining us today in the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Hope to see you next time.